Chapter 13 The Long Winter, found on page 83. We spent many days gathering roots, grains, fruits, and acorns. We filled as many of the rooms as we could with what we had. It started to become gloomy and cloudy again. Thunder and lightning were everywhere. The winter was not far off. We needed to be ready for 12 weeks of cold rain. We spent our time in the cave making it warm and cozy. We used a large bamboo pole to hang a candle up high so we had light. We set up a library, putting our books on shelves and decorating the walls with maps and charts from the wreck. Jack and his mother made a living room and a kitchen, and Fritz and I built a workshop. Our cave was endless. We were ready for winter. My wife and I decided to use the winter months to school the boys. It was a good opportunity for our boys to learn a language other than our native German, so we all studied French from books saved from the wreck. "I'm going to learn Spanish," announced Jack. "I just love how important people sound when they speak it." The boys also tried to learn English and Dutch with their mother. Soon we had all learned a few words and phrases of both languages. We also passed the time by opening up all the chests from the wreck and going through them for treasure. We found chairs and clocks, a music box, and many other things. In this way we spent the long winter, but this time our home didn't feel like prison. As the season closed, the weather became even wilder. Storms blew and lightning flashed. The wind was like a hurricane. And then suddenly, it was over. We went walking on the first dry day and saw something through our telescope on the far end of the beach. It looked like an overturned boat, and we decided to find out more. We were all happy to be back to exploring. Heading toward it, we noticed it was not a boat, but a huge, stranded whale that had washed up and died. The storm had truly been a strong one, but the destructive storm had also washed up lovely coral and shells everywhere, which the boys collected. We walked back home to get tools to cut blubber from the whale. The oil would come in handy. Fritz and Jack climbed the whale to begin the work. As we cut into the whale, the air was filled with birds. The birds snatched at the whale and bothered us to no end. Once we had finally stripped the whale of fat and meat, we cut further into the whale to get bones to use as oil lanterns. We left the rest for the birds and loaded our boat with all that we could carry. We decided to call the place of our latest adventure Whale Beach. We got home, stinking and tired, and we each had a bath thanks to our bamboo water pipeline. We put on clean clothes and ate supper, and were all happy to be done with our whale. The next morning I showed the boys how to get the oil from the blubber. It was a day of bad smells and an unhappy family. We all knew we needed the oil for lamps and the other things, but the work was not what any of us wanted. We all decided that when the bones of the whale were picked clean by the birds, we should set up a camp there. That way, if we had messy work like this, we could keep it away from our home. I then set about building a small rowing machine for our boat, which simply turned a cog that set the oars to row. Everyone was pleased, and the next day we decided to take the boat to Cape Disappointment and check on our animals. As we came close, we saw that they were afraid of us. We had been gone too long in our winter cave. The goats would not be milked, and had to be lassoed to get the job done. We had to catch all the chickens and birds all over again. We then loaded our boat with eggs and milk and what we could take from the land and made our way back to Whale Beach. When we returned, I spent some time making baskets and saddles and collars and other things for the animals that we needed. This gave the boys an excellent idea. Chapter 14 Farewell to a Friend, found on page 89. "Why don't we build a basket chair for Mother to ride in?" asked Fritz. "Yes," said Ernest, "we can make it and then put it on the bull and the buffalo." Soon enough the boys had hung a large basket between Storm and Grumble, and Fritz and Jack topped up onto one animal each. Then Ernest got in the basket to test it out. They walked along slowly, and it seemed to work wonderfully. "It's great and smooth," said Ernest. "Fritz, go faster." Soon the animals were racing along, and Ernest was being bounced all over as his brothers laughed and laughed. But our fun was to be short-lived. That day, as we were sitting on the porch of the cave, Fritz suddenly yelled, looking up the road. "I can see something strange and terrible. It rises up and then goes flat like a cable. It slinks on huge coils and it's coming for the bridge." I jumped up and looked through my telescope. "It is as I feared," I cried. "It is a giant snake of some kind, and it's coming this way." "Let's attack it," yelled Fritz. "If we do, it will only come after us here in our home," I answered. "We must find a way to fight it away from here. Go and get the guns, and we'll all hide and watch it." I watched the serpent come closer, and sure enough it crossed the bridge, lifting up its massive head almost 20 feet in the air. It was out hunting prey. We hid as it crossed the bridge and got ready for it, our guns loaded and our hearts thumping. As it came closer, it stopped as if it had smelled us. It lifted itself up, moving its head from side to side. The boys couldn't resist and opened fire. Even my wife shot at the beast. But the shots had no effect, and it simply glided by our cave and into the marsh. We were free for the moment, but we were all very worried. "Boys," I said, "that was a boa constrictor, and I believe that it is more than 30 feet long." I told the family that no one was allowed to leave the house until we killed the monster. We knew it was nearby, as we could hear our ducks and geese reacting in fear near the reeds. Suddenly, they all flew away and didn't stop until they reached Shark Island. Until we could draw the snake into an open space away from our home, we were all trapped. Finally, we were saved by an unexpected hero, our donkey. As we could not leave the cave to feed the animals, I shooed them out across the bridge to go back to their feeding place, but the donkey was too excited to be on the loose, and it ran to the marsh. Suddenly the boa reared up, its tongue flicking, jaws wide, and lunged on the poor animal. It was all over quickly. "Father," cried the boys, "shoot the snake now!" "Not yet," I told them. "Our best chance now is to wait until the snake has eaten its prey and then take it." We all thought about our own lives and the giant snake so nearby. My wife and Franz could not watch and went inside. Soon the snake lay almost asleep by the side of the river, bloated. Now was our chance to attack. We stopped quietly, sneaking up with our guns drawn. The snake lay still, its tail twitching, its eyes fiery. We were all scared and excited. All at once we fired on the monster's head, and its eyes went dead. The whole family stood over it, amazed. "Let's stuff it," said Fritz. "We could put it in our museum." "Could we eat it?" asked Ernest. "Of course not," said my wife. "Snakes are poisonous." "Not true," I answered. "In fact, people eat rattlesnakes and other snakes after they throw away the fangs. But you can make soup from them." "But Ernest," I asked, can you first think of some words to say for the poor donkey who gave his life for us?" "Let me think," said Ernest, and we all waited. "I have it," he said at last. "But you can't laugh." "Of course not," I answered, and so he began. "Beneath this stone poor Grizzle's bones are laid. A faithful friend he was and loved by all. In the end our call he disobeyed, and that is how he came to fall. A serpent springing from the grass swallowed him before our eyes, and even though he had to pass, we're grateful that he saved the lives of all the people on the shore, father, mother, and children 4. We all cheered his poem, and I wrote it down on a flat stone, where we would later bury our hero. After dinner, we dragged the snake away, and then we skinned, stuffed, and sewed it up so the boys could study it. We set it in the museum with its jaws wide, curled around a pole, making it as scary as we could. We even made a tongue and a pair of eyes out of the shiny beach stones to make it more frightful. End of chapter 13 and 14.